Hello students, in this video we are going to learn about the chapter functions. Before starting that, we must know what is a function. The group of codes which perform a specific task is known as function. Means whatever group you are writing, means whatever syntax you are writing as a whole is known as function. In Python, functions are of three types: built-in function, module function, and user-defined function. Built-in functions are those functions which are readily available in the current Python working environment. That is, you need not to import any package to use them. For example, input, print, chr, list, dict, ord, etc. These are the functions which are directly available in the current Python working environment. You need not to import any package. These are known as built-in function. Second is module functions. Module functions are those functions which are available in Python modules. Means to use them, first you need to import their associated module, then only you can use them. For example, functions of module math. Functions of module math are pow, it is for power, sqrt, likewise sine, cos, tan, log, etc. So these are the module functions. Third is user-defined function. User-defined functions are those functions which are defined by the user to perform a specific task. For example, if we want to define a function to add two numbers, then how can you do that? To write a user-defined function, first you have to write def. Def is the keyword to define the user-defined function, def. After that, the name of the function. It could be user-defined. It can be defined by the user. So let us name it as show. After that, this bracket and the parenthesis. So this is the header of the function. In this way, you define the header of the function. Now, whatever task is required to be done, that should be the definition of the function. If the definition is asking to add two numbers, so I am writing here a, b. I am taking two numbers over here, int input, enter number 1, enter number 1. Now I have to take second number, int input, enter number 2, enter number 2. So after that we have to print it, print a plus b. So in this way it will display the sum of the number. Function is execute only when we call them. So this is what? This is the header. This is definition of the function. This is what? Definition. This is definition of the function. The function execute when we call them. So this is the indent of 4 space. Come out of this indent, means in this indent just call it. We call the function through its name. The name of the function is show. So I am writing here show. This is the calling of the function. This is what? Calling. So here two things required. One is definition of the function, another is calling of the function. So in this way user-defined function can be defined. So user-defined function is a function which is defined to perform a specific task. User-defined function consists of two things. First is definition of the function Another is calling of the function. Definition of the function, it starts with the header def and the name of the function. After the indenting of 4 space, you can define the code over here which you want to perform. Calling of the function is done by using the name of the function. Now, to define a function in more better way, first we have to learn what is parameters and arguments. The variables which is defined at the time of declaration of the function, that is in the header of the function, is known as parameter, and the value or the variable which is defined at the time of calling of the function is known as argument. Again, the variable which is defined in the header of the function, that is in the definition of the function, that is in the declaration of the function, is known as parameter. Parameters are also known as formal parameters, and the variables or the value which is defined at the time of calling of the function is known as arguments. Arguments are also known as actual parameter. For example, def show a comma b. This is header of the function, means at the time of definition of the function, that is we have declared a function show which is having two variables in this parenthesis. So the variables which is defined in the parenthesis at the time of declaration of the function is known as parameter. This is what? This is parameters. Suppose we want to display the sum of them. So I am writing C equal to A plus B print C. You can directly write here print A plus B. It is valid. I am just writing in two way. Now to call this function, we have to call it show. I have given like 2, 3. So 2 will move in A and 3 will move in B. So at the time of calling, this is calling. At the time of calling of the function, the value is provided for the function is known as argument. Arguments. So remember that parameters are always a variable. Arguments could be a variable or a constant. So this is the important thing which is required to be remembered. What is parameter and argument? The variable which is defined at the time of declaration, that is in the header of the function, is known as parameter, and the value which is passed at the calling of the function is known as argument. Argument could be a variable, a constant, or an expression. Suppose you want to pass these two numbers given by the user, then what will happen? Definition will remain same. There is no change in the definition. It is same. Here I am just telling you how you can do that. You take two numbers from the user, A, int, input, value 1, B equal to int, input, value 2. Now you simply call the function show and pass this AB. So in this way, here I have directly passed the value, and here I have passed the value to this function show by taking the value from the user. So actual parameter or the argument could be a value or could be a variable. It is dependent on the requirement of the question. Now we learn another important things, the type of function on the basis of returning value. Very important thing, type of function on the basis of returning value. There are two types of function on the basis of returning of value, that is void function and non-void function. Void function means when function does not return any value, then such type of function are known as void function, and the function which returns a value are known as non-void function. Now what is the meaning of returning? Now let me explain you. I am writing the example of void function. Suppose I want to define a function to add two numbers. Let us name it as show. Here I have written a comma b. Now c equal to a plus b, print c. I want to call this function show. It is 2 comma 3. 2 will be assigned in A and 3 will be assigned in B. As soon as the function call, interpreter moves to the function, means after the calling it will go at the header of the function. Here it will assign 2 and here 3. Now it comes down 2 plus 3 5, print C. Now output will be 5. So here in this function, the function is not returning any value. That's why such type of functions are known as void function. Now what is non-void function? Non-void functions are those functions which returns a value. Now how we do that? Def show a comma b, c equal to a plus b, return c. And now see, at the time of calling of the function, here what happened? Here it is print c, here it is return c. Now at the time of calling of the function, there should be some changes like this: show, and we have passed to parameter 2 comma 3. Now 2 3 they will assign here. Here it will be 2, here it will be 3. 2 plus 3 5, return 5. Now this function is returning value, that is 5. Now the return value will be moved to the calling function. There are two type of function, calling function and called function. Called function is show and calling function is the main program. This main programming is calling this function. So the value which is returned by the called function will be moved to the calling function. So this value c, it will come here. Now in the main program the value of c is available. How we can use it? There are two ways. Let us assign this value c in some variable, let us say n, means this return value will be assigned in the variable n, and if you write print n, you will get output 5. So here remember this, here we have to use a variable to store the return value, means the literal meaning of this line is n equal to c, means show 2 3 2 3 2 3 5, return 5, and 5 will be assigned in here, means c will be assigned in n. So here if it is 5, then again n will be 5, and print n, you will get 5. So in this way you can do this. You can directly use the return value like this. You can directly write this statement, print show 2 comma 5. Now again you will get the answer 5. Why? Because here look at this print statement. Means we are showing that this statement, whatever value is returned by this statement, that will be printed. So you will get 5. Okay. Now a very important note to be remembered. Very important. Remember it better. Very important note. Very important. Here it is not returning any value. If I write here n equal to show 2 comma 3, print n, or if you directly write print show 2 comma 3, 2 3 5, 2 3 plus 5, print c 5, and this function is not returning any value. So in this case, what will be assigned in A, or here what will be the printed value? Means this statement will print the return value. So this function is not returning anything. Then what will be the output at this point? So remember that when a function does not return any value, it returns none. So none will be the answer. Remember that in none, n will be capital. So when function does not return any value, it returns none. So here, on the basis of returning of value, function can be defined in two ways. One is void function, another is non-void function. Void function is that function which does not return any value. Here show is the function which is not returning any value. Means after the calling of the function, value will be assigned in A and B. It will display the value of 2 plus 3 5. This function is not returning any value. Non-void functions are those functions which returns any value. To return a value, the return statement is written in the function. This return statement will return the value to the calling function, that is a main program. Means value will be returned at that particular point where the function is called. Function is called from this particular point, so the value C, this will be returned here, and the returned value will be get stored in n. When we print n, it will display the return value. You can directly print the return value by calling the function inside the print statement. Here the important note is there. When function does not return any value, and if we want to print the returned value from such void function, it will display none. Means when function does not return any value, it returns none. One more important thing while returning the value from a function, Python provides a flexibility to return more than one value from a function. Means returning more than one value, returning more than one value from a function. Suppose I am defining a function def show. Here two parameters are passed, a and b. I am calculating sum, difference and product of this number. So c equal to a plus b, d equal to a minus b, e equal to a into b. Now I want to return these three values from a function. So I can do like this. Return c comma d comma e. So you can return more than one value at a time from a function. Now see what will happen when we call it. When we call this function and pass the value, let us say 2 or 3, so it will return sum, difference and this product. So the returned value will move to the calling function. In that case, I have told you. You have to use the variable to store that value. Let us taking it as x comma y comma z is equal to show. Suppose we have passed 2 comma 3. So this 2 3 will move here. Here 2 3 will move here. 2 plus 3 5, return 5. C will be returned and that will be stored in x. Minus 1, 2 minus 3 minus 1, minus 1 will return, it will store in y. 3 to the 6, 6 will be returned in this z. Means these three statement x, y, z, these three statement x, y, z will take the corresponding value of this a, b, c. Means c will be in x, d will be in y and e will be in z. If you write here print x, y, z, you will get the answer. One important thing, if you in this question, if you do like this, let us say x equal to show 2 comma 3, again 2 3 5, sorry 2 3 plus 2 3 5 minus 1 6, return 5 minus 1 6. Now in x 3 value will be assigned the same value. These value assigned with this variable x. If I write print x, then what will be the output? The output will be the tuple. Means you will get answer 5 comma minus 1 comma 6. You will get this output. Means this is the thing to be remember. If more than one value is assigned in a variable, then it creates a tuple. So here 3 values are assigned in the variable x. So here x will be what? X will be a tuple. Here remember that in Python more than one value can be returned at a time, but here one more thing is required to be remember. If you do like this, def show a comma b, c equal to a plus b, d equal to a minus b, e equal to a into b, return a, return b, return c. Now in this case what will happen? Only this return statement will get execute. These return statement will not execute. There is no error in the program, but the statement written after the first written statement, they are not going to execute it. Means these two written statement will not be executed. Why it is so? Because we know that written statement transfer the control from called function to the calling function. Means show 2 comma 3, 2 comma 3, here it is 5 minus 1 6, return 5. Now as soon as this statement is executed, interpreter will transfer the control from the called function to the calling function. Return 5, then 5 will be assigned here and it will give answer 5. So here only one value will be returned, these two values will not be returned. So remember that if we want to return multiple value in Python, then multiple value can be returned in a single statement, and that should be only one return statement in the program, in the function return. Here you can write many things, but only return statement should be there. The statement which is written after the written statement do not execute. Means after this written statement, whatever I am writing, means whatever thing I write, they do not execute. Suppose if I write here return a, after that I write print a into 3 after this, then this statement will not execute. Means after the return statement, any statement which is written, it is not going to be executed. One more thing is required to be remembered. You can return a variable, a constant, an expression from a function. Means suppose you write def show a comma b c equal to a plus b, return c into 2 comma let us say 29, x comma y comma z equal to show 2 comma 3, print x comma y comma z. Now what will be the output of the program? 2 3, 2 3, here 2 3, 2 plus 3 5, return 5. So here in x 5 will be there, 5 into 2 10, here in y 10 will be there, 29. So here z will receive 29. So this will be the output of the program. Now here what I want to tell you, you can return a variable, a expression or a constant from a function. So remember that more than one value of any type can be returned from a function, but that value must be returned in a single return statement. If you write multiple return statement one after another, then the return statement written after the first return statement, they are not going to execute. Why this happen? Because whenever the return statement execute, interpreter transfers the controls from called function to the calling function. That's why the statement which is written after first return statement are not going to execute. Another thing, if you store multiple value in a variable, in one variable, means after calling the function is returning multiple value and you have stored these multiple value in a variable, then that variable will be formed in the form of tuple. Here parenthesis will be there, remember that, because if a variable is assigned with multiple values, then that variable forms a tuple. And this is the unpacking of the value. Means if three values are returned from the function and three variables are used in the main program to store the value, then individual value will be stored in individual variable. So in this way you will get the answer. Here if you write print x, y, z, so value of x will be 5, y is -1 and z is 6. So here you will get this type of value directly here, and here you will get the value in the parenthesis, that is in the form of tuple. Thank you.